Hello everyone, my name is Slippery Jack, and today I am going to be reviewing one of the earliest EPs by Boards of Canada, Twoism. Alright, so it's time to finally kick off my Boards of Canada series. A lot of times when I do discography reviews, or this is the first time I've ever done it, I'm actually starting with an EP rather than a studio album. And that is because I feel like the EPs are a very important part of Boards of Canada's discography. Some of my favorite tracks are on the EPs. And also the fact that there are only 4 Boards of Canada studio albums. So if these EPs didn't exist, then there would not be enough Boards of Canada for me to review. Of course, even if they didn't exist, I would review them anyways. But anyways, so Boards of Canada is Michael Sanderson and Marcus Eoin. Many people consider them to be pioneers of the IDM genre, along with Aphex Twin, Autechre, and Square Pusher, guys like them. Sometimes BOC's music sounds like IDM, especially in the percussion at times, but overall they are quite different. For me, Boards of Canada falls into their own category. Their sound is very hard to describe, and no one can copy Boards of Canada without it being very obvious. They use a lot of analog synths and hip-hop influenced beats. Most of it sounds like it was made from old malfunctioning computers from the 70s or the 80s, and explores themes of childhood memory, nostalgia, and nature. And despite being a fan for only a couple of years, listening to their music really brings me back to when I was just 4, back when I was just a real little kid. And I know this isn't their first EP. They've released a lot of stuff before this, but it was released in small quantities, and it is near impossible to get your hands on it. If any of you do have any of that stuff, do not sell it, because you will never find that again. I wish I could hear it, but yeah, unfortunately I kind of joined the Boards of Canada thing a little late. But anyways, despite being released so long ago, Twoism already shows that this band knows exactly what they want to do. It's very straightforward. It really does a great job at bringing back childhood memory. However, this album is not all sunshine and rainbows. In fact, it's quite the opposite. All the songs on here are very slow and sad. Everything sounds very dark and dreary, and because of its dark nature, it didn't really click with me at first. After enough listens, I've come to really appreciate it. It's like it's bringing back memories from your childhood, but along with a sadness. It's as if you're remembering a person from your childhood that you had a lot of good times with, but then it comes with the fact that they died, and you're never going to see them again, or the memory of seeing them die, something like that. And there really aren't any bad tracks on this album. My only problem is that it uses a lot of sounds that you will hear on their later albums, and those albums execute those sounds a lot better. But that doesn't mean that Twoism isn't unique. I feel like the atmosphere of Twoism is you can only get it on here. You can't get it from any other BOC album. It's sort of a lot of people, I know this is going to be the kind of weird for me to say, but I always consider this one the dark version of Music Has the Right to Children. A lot of people would say that Geo Gotti is the dark version of Music Has the Right to Children, but that album is a little too different. This one sounds a lot like Music Has the Right to Children, but very dreary. So I'll go down the track listing. Sixtyniner is very chill and melancholic, and does a great job at getting this album going. And Oirectine, however you pronounce it, is a lot more atmospheric and is definitely one of my personal favorites. It's still very dreary, but it feels a lot more adventurous. It reminds me of these long bike rides I would go with my father when I was like 6 or 7 through these neighborhoods that I have never seen before. And yeah, it's a really nice track to listen to. Iced Cooley is perhaps the happiest track on the entire album. It is produced in a way that makes it sound very distant, but it sounds a lot more warm and sunny than the other tracks. But unfortunately, it lasts for only 2 minutes. And then we go back into the more sadder stuff, like Basefree. Feels a lot more detached. It has this very repetitive IDM percussion thing going on, and some beautiful ambient pads underneath, and a sad yet comforting melody. And then Twoism is perhaps the darkest and most depressing thing on the entire album. I always thought that this one sounded a lot like An Eagle in Your Mind, which will be written later on. It's got those same detached sounding melodies accompanied by some quirky kind of sounds, but Twoism is way darker. It does not sound like it almost sounds like you're a child, but you are lost, you're in a bad place. And yeah. And here's another thing. In early Boards of Canada, they would have these little melodies after some of their songs that would last for about like 30 seconds. And they would be like completely different from the track that they are on. And that's exactly what Twoism does. It has the same ending melody as the one on 6010, another track that will be written later on. See You Later really doesn't fit on this album, in my opinion. It was included on Boards of Canada's next EP, High Scores, and it sounded great on there, but it just sounds a little too bright to be on Twoism. At least it's an enjoyable track and it doesn't mess up the atmosphere too badly. It still has that dreary, detached kind of stuff going on. Melissa Juice has a very childlike nature to it. Its melody is a lot more uplifting, but it has that underlying sadness too. Like I said in the beginning, it's almost like a happy memory, but just with the sadness. Perhaps you won't ever experience that memory again, or the people you experience that memory with are dead. And it ends with Smoke's Quantity, which is another song that will appear on Music Has the Right to Children. It sounds very foreboding, and I heard that apparently it's about a fire. It has all these synth sounds that sound like sirens and samples of horns. It's a really cool track to listen to, and it actually fits on Twoism just as well as it does on Music Has the Right to Children. And there's a hidden track on here called 1986 Fire, which is a great way to close the album. Once again, another more melancholic yet hopeful stuff. And overall, Twoism isn't perfect. I believe Boards of Canada has improved since then, but it still makes for a highly enjoyable listen. If you like Boards of Canada, you cannot miss this one. It is a very important album in their discography. It's a really nice listen. It's definitely the most depressing Boards of Canada album, but it's worth your time. I'm overall feeling a 75 out of 100. Thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe for more entertainment. Get ready for more Boards of Canada reviews. And I will see you all in the next one. Peace out.